Welcome in. It's Backstretch Banter on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. I'm your host, Chris Childers. Big weekend coming up. It is Memorial Day weekend, which is always so important to remember why we have Memorial Day, to remember the troops, what they've done for us, the sacrifice. NASCAR does an incredible job of helping do just that. And I know at Roush Fenway Keselowski, we've got some really awesome stuff planned on the cars this weekend, honoring a couple of America's, just when you read the stories, unbelievably selfless heroes, just unbelievable human beings. But that is this weekend, the Coke 600. It's racing's big weekend. Indy 500, the Coke 600. You got Monaco on the F1 side. Kevin Woods is here to celebrate. He is, what's your title? Like communications czar or chief,
whatever they tell me to do.
Something for RFK.
Chief, do whatever you're told to do, and they keep sending a check each week. So
you're just kind of the man that keeps it all together.
It's like I'm on
around
an island.
Roush Fenway.
I'm just like the last person left on the island for like 20 years. So here we are.
You're Gilligan and the skipper.
I am
all
Gilligan
wrapped up
and
into one.
Yeah, the skipper's already gone. It's just Gilligan. I'm all by myself here.
Just Gilligan by himself with his little hat on the Roush Fenway Island. Roush Fenway Keselowski Island, I should say. What an amazing month it's been. We've been doing this show. I think we're on race 14. It's been kind of amazing to see the progression that we've seen with RFK throughout the year. Coke's coming up. The last race that mattered, we won. Number 6 got into victory lane. You had Brad in conversation last week. But everybody in the sport is talking about a former Roush Fenway driver in Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And Ricky got into it with Kyle Busch, which I am adamant that Ricky Stenhouse lived out a fantasy for just about every single other driver on the circuit that's wanted to punch Kyle in his face over the years. But our hauler was right next door. How insane was that, dude? I mean, NASCAR's turned into the WWE in some respects, man. It was like the Royal Rumble on the lift gate.
It was like front row seating, right there.
Yes.
If Josh said those guys had a great view of what went down there. You'll start getting that. You get to these warmer summer months and things start getting a little bit more heated at the racetrack. You had the perfect scenario there where the guy couldn't leave. I think Ricky made the comment. Normally he'd been at home on his couch, and that probably wouldn't have occurred. So there he was in there, and it just kind of made a perfect recipe for some excitement, I guess.
It was excitement, and I think NASCAR squeezed every ounce of it out. They have posted every angle. They have certainly. It's almost like Joey Logano winning the race meant nothing. Like, take your $1 million and go. It was all about Stenhouse giving the right hook there to Kyle Busch. I'll ask you from a competition director, or not from competition. That's Josh, but you're the communications guy. From a communications fella's background, or whatever your official title is there at Roush Fenway Keselowski, is the playing up of the fisticuffs good for NASCAR? Is it embarrassing for NASCAR? It's everywhere. I kind of think it's, hey, use what you got and boost interest in the sport. It made every sports news. I mean, nobody mentioned Logano winning when I watched the news in Nashville, but they showed the fight. From your perspective as a marketing communications fella, your perspective was what for the sport?
Well, P.T. Barnum said no. What press is bad press, right? So I don't know.
Well, this was P.T. Barnum ass.
Sure. I think if you look at when these things happen, they're very controlled. Normally, they're not really that. I mean, it's kind of like organized chaos. There's security all around it. It's never going to get too far out of hand. And you'll have these dust-ups from time to time, and it brings in quite a bit of publicity. I think as long as it doesn't, we have had them in the sport in the past where they kind of go week to week. It can start getting distracting to the sport. But typically these things will happen. They'll kind of come and go, and they'll have their 15 minutes of fame, and it riles up the interest, and it kind of lets everybody realize just how intense it is out there, and how intense it is for these guys, and what they go through doing what they do. So you saw with the end of that race, Ricky had a lot of frustration there, and he kind of let that out. But you also could equally see that with Busch and those guys, they're frustrated too. So a lot of frustration kind of spills over. But I think as long as it doesn't get distracting, I think it leads some excitement. In my opinion, you ride with it for a little bit.
Well, it's been ridden. NASCAR has tweeted, Instagrammed, Facebooked, every single bit of it.
Well, what's amazing?
Possibly can.
I noticed this with Chris's incident 2 weeks ago. It is amazing in this day and age the various angles of the way something can get captured. Now, there must be 100 different angles of that Saturday night, of what happened Sunday night with Ricky and those guys. My personal favorite is the one with Pockris, where he's making the scared to death face. I wish to God that could have happened last week before we had him in here, and we could have quizzed him on that look of utter panic. So while Ricky and Kyle looked quite composed for the situation, Pockris I was a little worried about.
Pockris, that was the greatest still photo ever, and I don't know if you know this, but SiriusXM NASCAR producer Davey Siegel is the one that's under Kyle Busch after the initial when Busch initially falls over the tire and he's on the ground. That's Davey underneath, who's just like the look on his face like, what the hell just happened? It was incredible. It was awesome.
Hazard pay. It's funny you mentioned the tire. To me, that's the coming out of the weekend.
Was that our tire?
Well, that's the second biggest image. The image of those tires floating around the track.
Yes.
On Friday or Saturday, I can't remember which day it was. That was truly amazing. I don't know that I've seen in over 20 years guys in the infield swimming. That was some really bizarre. I don't know if that was a very safe thing to do, jumping in the water like that, but it was definitely eye-catching when you look at the video and there's tires floating literally just through the infield. So hell of a rainstorm.
For a race that doesn't matter, it certainly had its quirks. It certainly had its stories and lasting photographs with the rain and with the punch heard around the world on the face of Kyle Busch from Mr. Stenhouse Jr. We got to be feeling good, man. It's Coca-Cola 600 week. Fan Day at RFK is on Friday. So much planned. When I heard about it, I was like, thanks for the invite, guys. I'm a little jealous here. It sounds fantastic, but tell me what you got for the RFK fans this weekend.
Well, I was real disappointed when they told me you weren't going to make it, Chris, because we'd
wasn't invited.
We'd penciled your autograph session in for 10:30, but I guess we'll scratch that.
Blame Brandon Lee.
Brandon Lee.
That's what I
say. Fan Day is something we're really proud of here. We do it. We've done this for, I believe we moved into this building in 2003, and I think we've held Fan Day here ever since then. It's just a great time, good opportunity for the fans to come out and interact with the drivers, and we'll have guys from the crew out here doing tire changing units and racing simulators. We'll have tons of sponsors. Activation, setup, food trucks, a whole 9 yards. It's kind of like a fair. It's grown over the years. It's had a lot of different iterations. One of the big things, we'll have our shops open. We'll do guided tours. It's the kind of the way our shops are set up now. It's really the only time of year that general public can go through our shops and see how the race shop works and the process that the cars go through as we prepare them. So lots there, and it'll kick off with an autograph session with Brad and Chris and David Reagan at 10 o'clock. So that is I think it's first come, first serve. So come get in line. Typically, we'll have people come set up their chairs the night before and things like that. Over the years, we've had people camp out.
How long did the guys sign for? I mean, how if you were giving tips, what time should they show up?
Now, don't put me on the spot there. We will do, with autograph sessions, it's kind of a funny trick to the business here. You don't really want to give a time on an autograph session because if you give too much time, people just keep coming through. It gets kind of crazy, but we'll accommodate the people here. I'd get here 9:15 or so to get a good place set up in that line, but we'll do our best to accommodate everybody on.
You really had people go through the line multiple times.
Chris said go through the line. We've had people go through the line 6, 7, 8. I mean, you'll have people, with the autograph, it's kind of fun.
Come on.
It's one item per person. We'll have people show up with 35 die casts on a tray. and then get really angry when they think that everybody behind them should have to wait on the person to sign their 35 diecast. So that come through several times. But that's okay. It's fan day, and it's about the fans, and that's what really fans is what allows us to do what we do. You take away the fan interest, you take away the sport. So it's a great time once a year to kind of pay those guys back. It does always come on the Coke 600 week, which is obviously a big week in the sport. If you've ever been to the Coke 600, there's a huge Memorial Day initiative out there. It's crazy. Some of the things over the years that they've done out at the track. They love to blow stuff up in the infield there, and all kinds of tanks and military initiatives and stuff. But it's obviously you don't want to forget the message of Memorial Day. But it's quite extravaganza out at the track, and it's a huge race, longest race of the year. We around the time I first started here, I think we won 4 of them in a row. So it'd be good if we could go out there and get a streak like that going this weekend and get number 1 down. So it'd be a great time to do it. Why not?
Last race that was run in NASCAR that matters, we won it. RFK was in victory lane, and quite frankly, I would say 2 weeks in a row we did. But they can tell me no, but I'm adamant. But let's take a break. We'll come back. Kevin Woods, let's talk about what we are doing for Memorial Day at Roush Fenway Keselowski, what the messaging is, the troops that we are making sure that we honor on the vehicles this week. I know there's a special story with Fastenal, who's involved with a great organization, so we'll do that when we come back, talking Coke 600 weekend, Memorial Day weekend, right here on Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. We're back here, Backstretch Banter on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Chris Childers with Kevin Woods. We are heading to the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend in Charlotte. It is the longest race of the season. Fan Day is on Friday leading up to it. We got autographs with Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, David Reagan at 10 a.m. Then there's driving simulators and activations and all kinds of different stuff. It is the place to be. Angie Skinner's going to be there. Mike Skinner's going to be there. It is going to be just a festival of racing. It's going to be fantastic. You're not going to want to miss it. I know I wish I could be there. And maybe I'll just show up and bring 40 die-cast for the guys to sign instead of the 30 that they have on the tray that Woods mentioned earlier. Kevin is with us. It's Memorial Day weekend coming up. We have some really important things going on with our cars, honoring some of the troops. With number 17, with the Buescher Ford Mustang, through Fastenal's partnership, and Fastenal's the sponsor this week, with Operation Healing Heroes, they have identified Major Troy Gilbert. Now, he's going to be honored on the car this weekend as a part of a partnership with that organization. And Major Gilbert's wife, Ginger, is actually going to be on site. So she'll be there at RFK Racing Friday, May 24th. She'll see the car, be at Fan Day, tell the story of her husband and what it was like to be around the team and meeting Chris. There's going to be a TV production crew there on track Saturday, Sunday. So a really cool telling of Major Gilbert, his story, his sacrifice, what he's done for America. That's happening. And then for the Build Submarines number 6, Howard Gilmore is going to be on the windshield of the car for Brad Keselowski. Now, listen to this, Kevin Woods. This is amazing, and this is why Memorial Day is so important. During a firefight with enemy gunboats, Commander Gilmore gave the order to clear the bridge and, refusing safety for himself, remained on deck while his men preceded him below. Having been hit by gunfire in his final living moments, Commander Gilmore gave his last order to the officer on deck: take her down. I have chills saying that. Really cool that he's going to be honored this weekend, Kevin.
Yeah, certainly impressive, and obviously a great opportunity to honor him and have his widow on hand and provide her with a special experience, and one that lets her know that sacrifice doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated, and never will. So we're looking forward to having her out and hosting her, and hopefully she has a great time.
Why do you think Memorial Day, you've been around the sport for multiple decades now, why is this the weekend that racing is kind of chosen? I guess F1 has nothing to do with our Memorial Day, but racing is chosen from IndyCar's perspective. They do a ton of Memorial Day. NASCAR does a ton on Memorial Day. This is our biggest weekend as far as a racing community, and it goes along with Americana and saying thank you to those that have protected us and kept us free. Why do you think that is, that this weekend is so important to so many people across racing?
I think it aligns, really well with our fan base and like a better term, the demographic. I think that we identify with those types of people. I think the sport in general appreciates those sacrifices and what people have given for us all to be able to go out and run around in circles for a living and make a living out of that due to that freedom that we have because of those sacrifices. And I think we have a fan base that really appreciates that. I think we have a sport in general that really gravitates and appreciates that. And I think, how it fell, it being a part of the Coke 600 weekend, and the track just does a phenomenal job with highlighting the Memorial Day festivities and Memorial Day and what it means. And it's just, you talk about getting chills. If you've ever get an opportunity to go to the Coke 600, the pre-race is just fantastic. There's all the national anthem, the flag across the whole infield, the whole 9 yards. It's one of the special moments in the sport. And I think our competitors appreciate it, and I think the people within the sport, and I think our fans just love it.
I think so too. It's special. It's Americana. It is a celebration of this country. And it's something that racing does really well as far as honoring these men and women that have come before, that have sacrificed for us. I mean, just for us to live the life, for you to be able to be a part of a racing team for 20 years, or for me to be able to talk on the radio for the last 20 something years now, covering football, which is a sport that I love, and now doing racing. It's because of them. I mean, it doesn't happen without them. So I will say thank you right now on this radio show. And certainly we are going to reflect that in a big way on the vehicles this weekend. Kevin Woods, let's talk about the Coke race coming up. Now that victory lane has been tasted, it happened. Brad, the owner, is, I'm sure, a little more chipper. How has that been back in the office now that victory lane is out of the way for the team this year? You got one more, but it's good to get the first one done.
Well, you got to look at it in terms of it's out of the way for the 6. 17 is super close. So you got to get what you want to do really is get both of those guys secured in the playoffs. You want to do that sooner than later, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where, no matter how well you're running, you get down there to the end. If you don't have that victory, inevitably you put yourself in the position where bad luck can hit you, or you don't want to have to rely on what others, where this person finishes that person. You want to control your own destiny. So you get that win, you knock that out, and then you can kind of gear yourself towards those last 10 races for the championship. So you want to knock that out. But in terms of here, I think, a lot of times often with this organization back in the old days, around this early May and moving into the summer months is kind of where we'd hit our stride. A lot of times that would kick off with a big, strong run in the Coke 600. And, you just kind of move into those summer months as you really get ready to get down to the nitty-gritty and try to win a championship. And I think both of our cars have shown the ability to run up front and compete for wins. And I think they're cars that, once they get into that playoffs, anything can happen. And I think they've shown enough speed to be there for that Final Four. And once you get to the Final Four, it's a race for the championship. And that's the goal. It has been, and but more realistically, probably a goal right now than it's been here in a few years. So I think everybody's very excited about that and looking to really fine tune this thing over the next couple months.
Have you noticed, Kevin, more attention for the team over the last year and a half, from the marketing side, the communication side? Are there more people that are interested nowadays, maybe, than there have been in the last 5-10 years in the brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think, anytime you shake something up, it's like shaking up a Coke bottle or something. It fizzes up a little bit and gets a little more attention. And I think bringing Brad on board, for a few reasons, it was something different, something to look to. For another owner driver, it's kind of a special thing. Brad carries a lot of fans and a rich pedigree, and he's one of the top racers on the series. So anytime no matter what sports organization you're part of, when you bring in a quote unquote type free agent of that nature that's a champion, it's gonna shake things up a little bit and get a lot more attention. Now, what that does is win a press conference. And so when he came in, we saw ourselves win the press conference. And then you got to roll your sleeves up and go to work. And I think what you've seen Brad and Chris and the teams do is really roll their sleeves up, get past the initial press of, it's RFK now. What does that mean? And I think what you're seeing now is, with a lot of changes and a lot of things and a lot of work from a lot of people, and obviously not just Brad, but I think what you're seeing now is kind of the fruit of that. And the race teams are running a lot better than they were a few years ago, but they're kind of in championship form and ready to roll. And it's been very pleasing to see that.
Probably makes your job more fun too, from your perspective.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we always talk. They joke around in social media. It's no more difficult to film a video in Victory Lane than it is to film a video on pit road after a 20-foot. It's kind of the same work, right? But it's a whole lot more fun when it's in Victory Lane. And anytime you work in sports. On the inside, I did college football before this, but irrelevancy, what you're working for when it's relevant and when it's at the top of its game, it makes it a lot more fulfilling for really everybody that does what they do, from the competition guys on down to the marketing people and the people that do what we do. Everybody wants to be a part of something that's relevant and successful and up front.
Josh Shell's coming up next on the program, the competition director at RFK. Woodsy, we'll say goodbye for now. We'll see you after the Coke 600, perhaps, and happy Memorial Day to you and everybody out there. Be safe, and again, we love all you that sacrifice for us. Thank you so much, and we'll talk more when we come back right here. It's Backstretch Banter. We're back here, Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM, NASCAR Channel 90. Chris Childers, Josh Shell is with us once again on the show. He is the competition director for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. I think the last time we talked, it was somewhere around week 4. We've had a lot more racing since then. We've had some success since then, found Victory Lane. From that moment to where we're at right now, coming out of the All-Star race, how we feeling back in the garage? I got to think there's some positivity brewing.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of our guys are encouraged. Certainly we've had a little uptick in our performance here since we talked last. Got Brad to Victory Lane finally, so that's been a weight off everybody's shoulders. And, yeah, just continuing to try to get better, improve every week and learn and put our eyes towards the playoffs and get in position to compete for a championship when we get there.
No question about it. It is going to be a grind the rest of the way, but I think optimism reigns supreme. The last race we had that counted, RFK was across the finish line first. The last 2 before that had every opportunity to be in position to win. Certainly some issues there with Buescher, and it got crazy. Did he win? Did he not? They say he didn't. I don't believe it still, but I've been fighting with people on social media over that for the last couple of weeks now. I give up, but I still believe that we got a W that week. Anyway, when you win a race, give me an idea of what happens when you get back to Charlotte area. The conversation, is it any different? Is there celebration? Is there extra cupcakes on Monday from Brad? Like what happens?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of that. I think we had some cookies show up from one of our vendors. We had a kind of a shop-wide get-together Wednesday evening, and Brad and Matt McCall and I think Steve Newmark all spoke. For me, I went around Monday and caught as many people as I could and just, expressed my appreciation and thanks for all the work that everybody's put in. Yeah, certainly it's an uplifting time. But we've got to get the 17 in the same position now, and every week there's another race to win. So celebrate it while you can, and then it's on to the next one and trying to go win the 600 this week, like you said.
Try to win the 600. Would love to see the 17 in Victory Lane. That would mean both teams locked into the playoff, which would take a lot of pressure off. And we saw that emotion with Chris a couple weeks ago when he got into it with Tyler Reddick. Even though Brad won that race, he's saying, look, I don't have the checkered flag on my car. Now, Brad does, good enough, but I don't have that checkered flag. So we need to take this seriously. We need to finish one of these. We need to get a checkered flag, and then maybe, the approach is a little bit different. But does that change anything for you with one team being secure? Does your job change at all, or is it everybody's the same, everybody's equal every week?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now everybody's the same. It maybe puts the 6 guys in a little bit different position from time to time if it's something they want to try a little different on their car that they may not have done otherwise, or some race strategy may come along where you take the opportunity to get a stage win, even if it costs you later, or make a play to try to win the race, even if you kind of lose some overall points. So a few different situations there maybe, but yeah, as far as the week-to-week in-shop stuff right now, that's not really any different. Obviously, as we get towards the playoffs and see who's in what round and all those sorts of things, maybe some of that changes a little bit then, but right now it's pretty much business as usual.
Business as usual, no question. Well, you guys are a little bit happier after the nice batch of cookies that you had going into All-Star Weekend, and now you get ready for Charlotte. I'm curious because as a fan, All-Star Weekend is fine. It's there. Do I care? I do. Like, it would have been fun to see Buescher win, but it would have been like, oh, well, isn't that ironic that he didn't win in a race that matters? How much do you guys care? Is it a different week getting ready for All-Stars?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the preparation side, no, not really, because that package is the same that we'll run at the short tracks the rest of the year. And then obviously with the tire change and everything we had going on there, we kind of take that as an opportunity to learn as much as we can. I can speak for myself. When we won the All-Star race with McMurray in 2014, it was really cool for that night and the next day. And then when you realize that win doesn't really count for anything, doesn't lock you in the playoffs, it's kind of a little bit of a damper after that. So, I think all the things you said are true. You take that race as serious as you would any other, but at the end of it, it's on to the next one, and the results there don't really have a strong correlation to anything else you do the rest of the year.
No, I guess it's good to run well. I mean, you'd rather do
always.
that than the opposite
For
and have
sure.
some confidence. And certainly this team is confident going into the Charlotte race this weekend. Give us an idea for teams. Most teams are in the area. I think pretty much everybody's in the area now. How familiar are you with the Charlotte track? How much time is spent out there testing? How home is the home track?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the testing and everything is pretty limited compared to what it's been in the past, but certainly I have spent countless hours and days and laps, around there. It seems to be when we need to go do a intermediate style test with NASCAR, looking at different rules packages or whatever. I think there's been a couple off seasons where, between the last race and the first race, we tested Charlotte once or twice or three times. So, yeah, certainly it's home. For me personally, it's about a 5 to 8 minute drive from my house. So,
wow.
It's definitely home.
Is that weird when you have to work? I don't know what your family life is like, if you have children or whatever, but
I do, yeah.
When you're waking up and the kids want dad and the wife wants your attention, but, oh, hey, I got a race.
Yep.
And I'm the competition director for RFK, so it's kind of important that I'm focused right now.
Yes.
Is it hard to stay focused when you have to be at home leading up to the race, or do you guys do almost like a college football team and stay at a hotel before?
No, it's at home, but yeah, to your point, I mean, depending on how the weekend's going and what we've got going on, there are times where it's certainly challenging, and then when we come back to run the Roval in the fall and it's in the playoffs, that's even another level beyond that. So it can be a challenge at times depending on where you're at and how your weekend's going.
Does the extra 100 miles make a big difference this weekend? I know it's a long race. It's grueling. A lot of pit stops, certainly. From your position as a competition director, I would imagine you've looked at data, you've watched film, you could even discuss what you do to get ready for this unique race, which is, certainly another 100 miles. But how different is this experience this week with that extra time added on?
Yeah, I think that the two biggest things there are just the length of time, whether it's pit crews, crew chiefs, engineers on the box, guys behind the wall, spotters, drivers, whoever, the extra time in competition and staying focused and staying sharp for that full 4 hours or whatever it ends up being. And then the one other thing, Charlotte's unique with having an extra stage. There's 10 more points out there available. I think you can score 70 instead of 60. So just that in itself gives this one a little bit more significance from a overall points end of year perspective.
Yeah, it's an interesting race. It's a fun race. It's the best weekend in motorsports across the board, with Indy going on, with Monaco going on, the Coke race. It is, if you like motorsports, which I do, it's fantastic. And weirdly for me, I'm such an idiot. I scheduled a trip coming up to France in Barcelona, and I'm going to miss the Monaco race by a couple days, and then I'm going to miss Le Mans by a couple days. So I literally just did the dumbest thing I possibly could as a motorsports fan, but whatever. At least the Nashville race is rapidly approaching in my backyard, and I'll get to see some motorsports
Be there
soon.
before you know it. Yeah.
Yes, it will be. And hopefully we got a couple more wins by then. And certainly the way the team has been running, I would think that's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah,
we talked no, not at all. As we talked to Josh Shell from RFK, the competition director, what has been different from your perspective from the beginning of the season until now? I mean, you guys have been consistently, I think the conversation at the beginning of the season was the team wasn't meeting expectations. Now, if you actually paid attention, I think there was a lot of luck involved, whether, bad tire, or, Brad getting loose in Atlanta or whatever it was. Has anything changed from your perspective, from what you guys are doing to get better, or is a lot of it Lady Luck smiling this time?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of luck. I think obviously all of our folks are working hard every day trying to make our cars better, faster, nicer, as much as we can. I think we've made some gains there. And then I think the other thing, and I actually heard Brad talking about this the other day, we kind of challenged ourselves over the offseason to take a look in the mirror and figure out how we get from where we were at the end of last year to continue to take steps forward. And we made probably an uncomfortable number of internal changes over the offseason. And I think, the thought was kind of the 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. And I think we experienced some of that. And I feel like we're getting to the 2 steps forward part of it. And some of the plans and ideas that we had of how we could get better have started to come together here in the last, couple months, however you want to look at that.
You know what I'm curious about is how your resources compare nowadays with Brad being there, and certainly the results have been great. You guys have been running towards the top, and Brad got the last win that matters in NASCAR. Like, how does the size of your building, the size of your team, the size of your resources, how does it compare currently to Gibbs and Hendrick and some of the teams we always talk about that are typically in victory lane?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly we have probably less people, absolutely, just as much as anything from having less teams, right? Like if you only have 2 cars versus 4, there's a scale there. I said this earlier, I'm really proud. I think we do a lot and get a lot out of the resources that we do have. Certainly we have everything that we need, but we don't have extra people just sitting over in the corner looking for something to do. So I think it's a testament to the quality of people that we have, and everybody realizing the fact that we've got to get the most out of the resources that we do have, and I feel like we're doing a good job of that right now.
Do you feel like every week that you do this job, you grow a little bit more coming from the engineer side? You were a long-time engineer, and so in my head, and I cover football for a living, in my head, it's probably like going from a coordinator to a head coach, where you have the CEO sort of responsibility when you become a competition director, as opposed to an engineer when your hands are in the middle of it trying to make the car better. Do you feel more comfortable by the week, or is it still I'm sure you're always going to feel like you're learning, right?
Yeah. To answer your question, I think I feel more comfortable all the time. And the biggest thing for me is just not having every situation that you go through be the first time that you have to go through it, right? Like whether that's to your point, going to the hauler to talk about a finish and get an explanation of how we got to where we did, or whatever else it might be. It's like, okay, I've done this before. I kind of know what to expect. It gets a little bit easier the more times you go through something.
Were you in the hauler with Scott Graves at the end of the Busher?
I was actually, that was the 1 week I've taken off this year, and I was.
You're kidding.
I was actually at home.
Oh wow!
In our war room.
So were you watching live at home?
Yeah. So I was actually in our war room here at RFK, and.
So what's going through your head?
Just trying to figure out, what's happening. You got people yelling and screaming, jumping up and down, and you're watching the TV, and then they're showing the 5-car, and it was just a little bit of chaos, and then trying to catch up with the guys at the track and find out what they were hearing and what the explanation was. And I talked to Scott that night on the way home and kind of got clear on, what NASCAR was saying and where we were at. And then to NASCAR's credit, they did a good job following up with us at Darlington and kind of going through more detail to make sure everybody was clear on the system, the process, how everything works, how we got to where we did, and trying to give us some comfort that we got the right answer, even if it wasn't the answer we wanted.
All right. I've asked other people about it. I'll ask you. Was it the right answer? Seriously. I mean, I've had so much arguments with people that say, I need my glasses checked. I look at the photo. The photo might be the photo, and it might say that, yeah, but in every picture, in every video I look at of them getting close to the finish line, the 17 car is ahead of the 5.
Yeah.
So I don't know how scientifically that photo can be correct.
The biggest thing that I learned out of all of that is that the start-finish line that we all look at and pay attention to that's painted on the racetrack is purely ceremonial. It's not really official, and when you see the high-speed camera images, that's actually, that's the determining factor. That's what matters. Then
the finish line had to be way behind the actual line.
I think
way behind.
Yeah, I think part of it was, not straight, not consistent width. But in our conversations with NASCAR, that's something that they're aware of now and will be rectified going forward, so that there is less question or confusion on that. But the system that they have and use, and it's the same camera system that they use at the end of pit road and all those things, it shows the correct answer. So, yeah, not what we wanted, but we got a good enough explanation that we've accepted it at least.
Well, you've accepted it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll accept it. We'll take a break. Josh Shell is our guest, competition director, RFK. I got to get your perspective on what happened at the end of the All-Star race last weekend, because the Castrol Edge hauler was right next door. So let's discuss when we come back right here on Backstretch Banter with RFK. We're back here. It is Backstretch Banter on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio with RFK Racing. We are going to Charlotte this week, coming out of the All-Star race. The All-Star race was fun. Chris Buescher finished 3rd, so we had a good finish in the race. Did it mean a lot? Nah, not necessarily. But the one coming up this weekend does. The home race in Charlotte is going to be absolutely huge. The 600, it's one of the great weekends in motorsports, and we're all fired up for it. But it's amazing how much discussion has come out of the All-Star race. None of it had to do with Joey Logano winning the actual race. I don't know if anybody even realizes that he did. That's not a NASCAR fan. The talk has been about Kyle Busch. It's been about Ricky Stenhouse. When I watched the video of the fight, of the brouhaha, when Kyle gets struck by Ricky, and then we have Ricky Sr. getting hit by Kyle, I always see the Castrol Edge hauler right next to what's going on, right next to the Kroger people. What the hell? Did you see it? What was your vantage point of the whole thing?
I did. So I went in our hauler, packed up all my stuff like I normally would after the race, walked back out, looked to the left, and all these people are piled up. I'm like, what's going on here? And then I kind of put it all together, and then they started fighting. And I stood there and watched, and the thought actually went through my mind of like, man, should I go over here and try to help out, break this up or not? Like, what do I want to do here? And it kept going. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to stand right here and let these guys sort themselves out. This is not my fight to get in the middle of.
They were doing enough fighting on their own for anybody to get involved. It was like the Sharks and the Jets in West Side Story. I mean, it was like a WWE brawl.
It was.
They're throwing people off the what do you call it? The ramp?
Off the lift gate, yeah.
Yeah, the lift gate. I mean, it was unbelievable. And it was team on team. It was the Kroger folk versus the Kyle Busch folk. I've never seen anything like it. Have you guys at RFK? I mean, it's almost like Ron Burgundy and the Channel 4 news team, getting ready. Does that ever happen, or is that a rare situation what took place?
That's pretty rare. I'd say maybe once a year, once every couple years,
Yeah.
you'll get something like that. For me personally, that's the closest I've probably been to one. I don't know that I've been on a team that's been involved directly. But yeah, that was not what I was expecting to see, certainly, when I popped out of the back of the truck.
It was wild, and I think that just goes to show you we should all applaud Chris Buescher for his restraint
Absolutely.
the week before.
Absolutely.
We should applaud him because he had a chance to win a race and got screwed. And he just gave Reddick a little love tap. I mean, he certainly didn't deck him in the face. I did wonder, and you can certainly plead the fifth, but I wonder how many people that were back there in the garage area were applauding and saying, I fantasized about punching him in the face my entire career. I'm sure there were some. I mean, it's Kyle
probably.
Busch.
Yeah, probably
It's
so.
Kyle Busch. He tends to piss people off, fans and drivers and teams alike. But it was crazy, just absolutely crazy to watch it. Do you feel the sport is, I mean, I'm not trying to, compare it to WWE, but the last couple of weeks, is there a different energy? Like, it seems like the intensity has really picked up in NASCAR.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it just speaks to how close everything is, and like we've been talking about, how important it is to get a win, and how much the results mean from week to week. So, yeah, certainly it's intense. I think the competition's closer than it's ever been, and you're racing in really, really tight areas, and I think that leads to high emotions and guys expressing their feelings towards one another when they're not happy about it.
You know what I didn't ask you about? We got a few more minutes with you here on the program. And by the way, thank you to everybody for helping out. As always, Alec Walt and all the great people at RFK, Kevin and Woods and Mr. Lee and Thomas Burfield, Elijah Burke, great people that help us behind the scenes. But what was Saturday like in North Wilkesboro? Was it the craziest? I mean, we have bad weather in NASCAR all the time, but that was a mean rain.
Yes.
That was awful.
Yeah, it was not a whole lot of fun. Happy to get qualifying in and the pit crew challenge.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool experience. And then after that, it was not a whole lot of fun. I did hear that a couple of drains got clogged in the infield, and that was part of why it turned into such a big issue.
Oh,
But
really?
I think also 4 inches of rain in 2 hours probably doesn't help anything either. So, yeah, it was not great. We were just kind of waiting around trying to figure out when we were going to be able to get out and when it would be safe and all those things. But yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of fun from the pit crew challenge.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine that it was. What did you think about the pit crew challenge? The guys finished P2. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know what it is. That an accurate competition to show how good a pit crew is? Because you guys crushed it.
I think so. I mean, the only difference with that compared to what you might see on TV on a given week is the times on the pit stop were done from the pit in line to the pit out line. So there is a little bit of a driver component there on the pit stop side. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, I think it's great. That's what we've done at the All-Star for a long time, and it seems like the right setting to do a unique competition like that and kind of showcase some of the guys behind the wall.
How do they measure the time? How do they exactly determine the winner?
It's
in
just
that thing?
it's time over distance on the pit road.
Okay,
Piece,
gotcha.
and then just total time from green flag to checkered flag for the qualifying part of it.
It was cool to watch. It was. It's a fun competition, and it's cool to see those guys really get the spotlight. I mean, you're watching, and it's all about them. They're getting the introductions. They're getting TV time. They're getting all that. And I've always wondered what that's like for a pit crew, because your performance is maybe not every bit as big as the drivers, but it's pretty damn important. I mean, you are the difference between a win or a loss. I feel like they're getting more love now. I mean, the TV crews have certainly done a good job of doing that. Fox is focused on pit crews, but from your position as a guy who's a competition director, and now that you have this role, what is your view of what those guys do?
Yeah, I mean, it's Yeah, it's pretty incredible. They stand around for a while in between pit stops, and then we ask them to go, break 9 seconds on a regular basis, and then take a 15, 20-minute break or whatever it is. So, yeah, certainly different than other sports where you're kind of able to get into a rhythm and get into the flow of a football game or whatever it might be. It's certainly different. It's definitely a challenge, and whether it's pit crew guys or crew chiefs, engineers, I've said for a long time. If we have a bad day, if you have a bad day at work, maybe nobody knows. If we have a bad day at work, there's probably a couple million people that are gonna see it, have something to say about it. So yeah, it's a different environment for sure.
Certainly a different environment. It is not for the faint of heart. You have to be tough-skinned because you're gonna have highs and you're gonna have lows. But it is amazing to watch those guys, and I was really proud of the team last week for coming up P2 in that all-star race. The Coke race this weekend, you got some family time. You don't have to get in a hotel room or anything like that. Now that we're getting close to the summer, kids are going to be out of school. How do you, who have you're the competition director, you got a busy job, and you're on a team that's competing for championships. How do you balance? What do you do to balance the whole home work life?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just trying to take advantage of the time when it's there. My family actually came to Darlington and
nice.
Got to stand in victory lane, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
nice.
My daughters haven't been to a race in a long time, so that was pretty special. But beyond that,
did they tell their classmates when they got back that they were? I bet that's
so
pretty cool.
My youngest daughter is actually in the same class as the car chief on William Byron's car. As his son, so they have an ongoing, long-standing rivalry. And
how old are they?
3rd grade.
Oh, so it's a nice little bicker.
Yeah. Plenty of back and forth.
Heck yeah.
So no, but I think it's just taking advantage of the time when you can get it. If I don't need to be at the shop on a Thursday, then I need to be at home and spending time with them. And I encourage anybody in our building that's in a similar situation to take the time you need when you can, because there's going to be weeks where you're not able to do that.
I would assume that to have a spouse in NASCAR, you have to have. There's two kinds of spouses, which is what they say about college football coaches. There's great ones and there's X ones, because it is such a demanding profession, right? It is crazy. And hopefully for all of you, you got great ones, because it is a balance. Certainly, absolutely. It is a demanding job. What do you guys do for fun? I'm curious, like during the season, you got to be so focused, but is there anything in Charlotte that this is how I take my mind off?
I don't have a ton of hobbies. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. It's racing,
engineering.
Try to spend some time with the family and maintain my sanity, and that's about all I have time for. But we talked about this the last time. I got into racing when I was 13 or 14. And that was my hobby, right? So when you turn your hobby into your career, it's tough to figure out where to go next. But yeah, I don't, try to spend time with the family, exercise, do all those kinds of things, and that's really about it for me, at least.
Well, that's healthy, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, I guess it's healthy. If you weren't enjoying yourself, then I wouldn't wish that life on anybody. If your hobby was your work, that sounds miserable. But you're in a great profession. You're competing every day, which I think is, if you have a job where you're competing, to me, those are the coolest jobs, because it's just fun to have the payoff at the end. But great to have you, man, and thanks for being a part of the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That is Josh Shell, the competition director for RFK. We're done for the week. Fan Day on Friday. Do not miss it. The race on Sunday. And we'll see you next week. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio.